Hi there, my name is Steve Gerhardt, and as always, this is the Unagi Observer. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching the video. Last week we had a Genshin video, just kind of a filler video, while I was away at Gen Con. Yes, Gen Con was this past week, and so I got a lot to say about it, so we'll get into it. A couple things. If you want to skip parts, we can do that. Look down below, and you'll see where the timestamp is in case you want to go quickly to the swag or just to the Gen Con video, or if you want to hear about like how the panels went and things like that. It'll be all listed down below. And the other part is that if I seem really tired and I start yawning a lot, or I'm just like, it's because I spent the night last night not in a hotel after my flight was canceled, but in Charlotte Airport itself. That's never happened to me before. Box is now checked. Spent night in Major Hub Airport. And if I never have to do it, it wasn't the worst. Actually, it wasn't the worst experience. Not great by any stretch of the imagination, but it wasn't the worst. And would I ever want to do that again? Probably not. But if you want to see the full tale of woe, go to Unagi Steve. That'll be down below. And the link for that will be down below. So if you want to hear about that, that's fine. Because that's a whole separate subject of how American Airlines kind of wasn't helpful. So anyway, there's that. So why don't we get into the meat of it? Let's talk about Gen Con 2024. All right. If you've watched his channel, you know that I'm very impressed with Gen Con's ability to be highly organized. They're a highly organized event that they've been around for a while, so they kind of know what they're doing. And when I say a while, I mean they've been around since like 1971 or 1970. I'm not sure, but it's been a while. So they got some things down pat. As usual, I am impressed by their ability to move large lines. So if you don't do your mail-in badge and you want to pick up there and you get in line, the interesting thing is that the convention center is large enough that you're probably not going to be outside for very long at all. It's mostly going to be inside. That's where you're going to be at. And they are a firm believer in moving the line along. And because they're so organized that when you get up to check in, it's not actually... Some of the convention people are there to help out. But really, when you show up and you give your name, Steve Gerhardt, then they'll turn right around and they go into their own database, their own system, and they go, here you are, and they hand you your stuff, and they say, don't leave, make sure everything's there. Make sure everything's there. And every year I see someone having a problem, an issue of some sort ahead of me, and they fix it. They have people there who know how to fix things. And when the person doesn't know how to fix the thing, they go, please wait 1 second. Bob, Carol, whoever, come over here. I need your help to fix this problem for our friend here. And they do such a wonderful job with taking care of their con goers. Like I said, line management is really good. Room clears are no jokes. This is not a arbitrary thing. If they say in the program that there's going to be, room clear, they mean it. So a person is going to come in there and clear the room. This isn't one of those things where they're just like, I don't want to kick anybody out and get yelled at. No, they go in there and go, okay, everybody out. Thank you for coming. Bye-bye. Go. We got other people coming in for the next event. Thank you so much. In you go. So if you're trying to get into the next event and you want to be in the event prior to it, but it's a real room clear. Unlike certain conventions like Otakon, where that rule appears to be optional. It is not optional at Gen Con. So like I say, I'm not going to go into the minutiae because I always talk about it from year to year, but I am always impressed with their organizational ability, their ability to solve problems, and their ability to acknowledge you, the congoer, as a person. And they literally do this when you have a problem. How can I help you? You're their main for the next however long it takes to solve your problem. You are their main focus, and it's really nice and chef's kiss. All right, so let's talk about the things you can do at at Gen Con. So there's a lot of different things that go on here. And one of the things that I want to point out is that there are actual mini conventions within Gen Con. And there's a couple main ones. One is sort of the unnamed, unofficial anime convention that happens at Gen Con. Now, something happened a couple of years ago where I think the guy who was running it just fell apart or whatever, and they got, I think, Wasabi Entertainment or something like that to run the anime for them, the forum for them. Well, they're fine, except they just have a very boring program. So we're hoping, Brent and I are hoping that maybe next year they will take on more of our panels. I actually did a panel for an anime panel this year for them. So who knows? We'll see. And the other big one there that you'll find is if you are a writer, you like to write things, whether for yourself or you're trying to be a writer, that's what you want to be in life, and you want to write fantasy and science fiction and things of that nature. Gen Con has, in one of the hotels, a specific area run by a particular group that says we're going to set up workshops, we're going to set up open mics, we're going to do book signings, we're going to have editors, we're going to have all these things to help you become a better writer. And we're going to have just fun little events like that, and you can buy books, interesting books and things of that nature. And and that in and of itself within Gen Con is actually quite run quite well as well. Brent and I actually went to 2 of those events, and I'll talk more about this later. The other big thing is, of course, what you can do at Gen Con are demo games. So in the program, you will see, and I'll show you the program here in a moment. In the program, you will see a whole listing of, and it's online, of games that might be brand new, or people would just want to do an update and have you demo it and explain it to you and try to generate interest in it. A note on the program guide. Beautiful. It's got maps. It tells you where things are, who people are, where to go. You got a problem, here's cons ops. Wonderful. A little bit meaty. So if you don't have the Gen Con app on your phone, or you don't have digital access online, this is a great resource and actually quite pretty. So anyway, you can find, by the way, you can find everything that I've mentioned so far and will mention online as things, to sign up for. So you have the demo games, and then you have, and they can be board games, they can be digital games, card games, whatever. They're just games. Then you have workshops where you can make your own dice bag, you can make chainmail, you can do this, that, or the other thing. So a lot of workshops. There's even puppetry, believe it or not. So if you want to make your puppet, or if you want to learn how to do actual puppetry, and I think there was a guy from Sesame Street here this year to do that. So you can do things like that. And by the way, the choices of things to do are in the hundreds. Yes, you heard that correctly. If you don't believe me, go to the Gen Con website and look at the programs, and you're going to see last year's programs because they keep a kind of a historical record of it, and you're going to see exactly how many things there are to do, and there are hundreds of things. You cannot be bored at this convention. There's just no physical way to do that. So you get an idea that you can go to these workshops, these panels, game demos, and things like that. So there's on Lucas Oilfield, which I mentioned, that is where you have basically your tournaments, your card tournaments, your Yu-Gi-Oh, your Digimon, whatever it happens to be, the new game this year. That's where you have your tournaments. That's also where you get to play games. Like there, you go down, you hand them a few tickets to get inside this area where you can just pick a game, go up, check it out like it's a library book, and you have to stay within this area. And you sit down with your friend or get some people to join you, and you play the game for however long it takes you to play the game. And you can stay there for however long you want to do. Brent and I usually spend a day in this area because it's just so much fun playing new games. As a matter of fact, you'll see in another segment coming up my review on some quick reviews on some of these games. So you can do that. You can There are RPG game rooms where they are literally huge ballrooms with 8-seat tables, and people can sign up to run games. It can be whatever RPG that you want to do. Brent did Whispering Road, which is Ghibli based. You can Dungeons and Dragons. You can do Cyberpunk. Whatever it is, here's your game table. You can do whatever you want. People sign up for it and come to your table. So there's that. There's so many things to do. The food part of this is wonderful, because what they did, they decided to do this. They brought the food trucks from externally. They had an avenue, a road where they blocked off the road, and they had all of these food trucks. And when I say food trucks, I don't mean 3 or 4. I mean, we're talking 12 to 15. You have choices, and those are the food trucks. We're not even talking about the wine trucks, the beer trucks, and all those guys. It's you have a menu with which to choose from, okay? And you don't have to leave the convention to do it. So they moved it inside the convention, and there's a parking lot between the convention center and Lucas Oil Field, and they kind of block it off. And you can either get to it from Lucas Oil Field, or you can get to it from the convention center, but you have to be in those places in order to get to it. And so you can go there if the weather's nice. You can eat outside. There's places to eat. If the weather's not so nice, you can buy the food and go into the Lucas Oil Field and sit in the stands and eat your lunch in air condition. Okay, so well run. Real quick, I got a commemorative plastic cup. The best 4 days in gaming, Gen Con. You can tell it's a kind of a beautiful cup. $24, and you're gonna be like, okay. So it's nice. I like it. And when you refill this, it's like $1. There you go. So this was really nice and handy, and I really did enjoy it, actually. So food is a reasonable option, and also the prices that you're paying for the food makes sense. Like, if you go to Otakon and you pay for that sloppy Joe thing that they could, put on a crusty piece of, I don't know, they call it bread, and it's just very bleh. Here you actually have restaurants that have a tent. You have barbecue. You have hamburgers. You have ramen. You have all these different things to choose from. And yes, it can be pricey, but when you realize how much food that you're getting and what it is, then the sting is not as bad, and you actually enjoy yourself. So it's not just food you're shoving into your mouth because you need the protein. It's actually something to be enjoyed. And just real quick, that once your day is done and you decide to go leave the convention, but you want to have dinner or a lunch, there are plenty of great eateries around the convention center. I'm not going to go into it, but just know that there are plenty of good places to eat. So there's the food. Dealer's hall. Oh my goodness, dealer's room. So it's very large. It's about the same, possibly larger than the old Otakon in the ICC, and and it's set up so that things make sense. Like if you're looking at kind of more handcrafted games that are kind of over here, if you're looking for self-published authors or authors that are independent presses, you go over here. If you want, the newest board games that they're demoing in the dealer's room so that you can buy it if you like it, they're over here. If you want to do a pre-sale, you can go over there. If you are doing art, you want to sell your art. Last year we got a lot of Genshin Impact stuff. That's over there. Really good stuff, by the way. Really, really good stuff. And then just, you get the idea. It's very large. Yes, it is packed all the time, but people seem to understand that they need to keep moving. And if they do happen to slow down or they do happen to stop and you say, excuse me, no one's going to give you any crap about it. They understand, and they're just like, okay, let me step to the side so that you can get through. So very friendly, very user friendly. They have a kids section for games. Like, we accidentally wandered into it, and it's just like, so if you're oh, by the way, Gen Con is very family friendly. So if you're bringing your kids and you want to get them a good kid game, there's a place in the dealer's room for that, and it's not just 2 or 3 things. It's a whole section of wonderful kids games that are educational and fun. And please, if you have children, go check it out. I cannot speak enough to it. So eventually, later on in this video, we will talk about swag. So I'm kind of glossing over it because if I talk about every kind of nuance about it, I'm going to be talking about this for the next 5 hours. There's a lot to do. You can't get bored. If you are wondering what it looks like, it's great how they have it archived. So you literally just have to go to gencon.com. Look up schedule, go in there. There's a filter that you can use so you can see what we were doing this past year. And yeah, you'll be amazed. It's hundreds of things to do. Now, real quick, you'll have heard me mention ticketing, cost, things like that. Gen Con is a ticketed event. So there are things in there that a lot of panels and stuff that don't cost money, but you need to have a ticket, either a digital ticket that can be applied to your badge. So you have this barcode that says you, like, right? And so you can, so they can scan it and they go, okay, you have digital tickets for this event. There you go. You're done. Literally. How nice is that? Oh yeah, they have a QRC code on the back for the exhibit hall, just to let you know what hours and things like that. I mean, this is really just really well done. Or you can buy, some people, like some of the workshops, you need to pay money so that they can provide you the stuff. So some of them might cost some money. And usually the ones that are very low key are like $2. People just generally say, okay, $2 and that'll cover it. And the more expensive items will be, of course, more expensive, and the more, frou-frou things that you do, they'll cost money. But the point is that you have to have a ticket in order to take the ride. So there you go. And you can always buy generic tickets. So if you decide that you want to do more things, again, you can go up to the entrance and buy more tickets at $2 a piece. Well worth it. So yeah, wow. Okay, so that's kind of what you can do in a nutshell. So let's talk about the things that Brent and I actually did. Okay, so here's some specific things outside of like running around the dealer's room, playing the games, which we had a great time. We spent an entire day just playing these games. There'll be a review on those coming up on some of the games that we played. But there were some specific panels and events and workshops that we wanted to kind of go to. And one of them was Dune Imperium, the digital game. So the idea was to learn the digital version of the Dune Imperium board game that came out, I believe, the year before last. And it was an update on that game as well. And so when we got in there, it says digital on our tickets. But for some reason, they kept insisting, the guy that we ran into kept insisting that it was a board game, not digital. So we're like, okay, whatever, why not? And so we learned how to play the board game, kind of, because it's very confusing. And it was one of those things where it's just like, if you had more than an hour, like if you had like, this is what you're going to do in an afternoon in a hotel room because it's raining outside, then, we would have gotten it fairly quickly and then we would have been able to play it. But it was very, very confusing to me at first. And it was one of those things where it's just like going, I know that other people understand it and that the game mechanic is real and it functions in a real way. I just wasn't, for some reason, my mind wasn't just grasping onto it. So I was like, I accept what you're saying to me as true, but I really don't understand it. But we were able to play a few rounds of it, and I started to get it a little bit, and it looks like it can be a fun game. Like we were kind of like thinking maybe in the future we would try to play this game if we had time to do it. So an interesting thing happened. The guy who was actually running the event came by and said to the guy who was showing us how to play the game, he said, oh, okay, well, it's almost 4 o'clock, so we're going to have to wrap it up here. If I can just go ahead and get your tickets. And we handed the tickets over, and he goes, oh, it's digital. And we're like, yeah, we thought it was going to be digital. And the guy was just like, yeah, I was just brought them over here. And they go, oh, well, you were supposed to get on those machines over there. And it was literally the board game as a video game on the laptops, and that's what we were supposed to do. So we had about 10 minutes of playing basically the board game on the laptops, and I got to be honest, I'd prefer the actual physical board game to the digital game, because the digital game looked like a overly complicated slots machine from Las Vegas. So there you go. We kind of walked out and we were just like looking at each other going, okay, next time. We know that the board game is interesting. We'll figure it out later. So the next two items that we specifically wanted to go to were actually in the writers' convention, one of those mini cons, right? And Brent and I do writing. We both write for ourselves, for other people. Sometimes both of us are published in various ways. And so one of the things that we wanted to check out was, because again, this is a Gen Con convention, so it's sci-fi, folklore, mythology, fantasy, and all that stuff. So we wanted to go to this thing to kind of improve ourselves as writers and get new, fresh ideas and ways to do things. So we went to this seminar, not quite a workshop, but it was a seminar, and it calls Folkloric Fantasy Working with Monsters. And the description is, join our international panel of experts as they discuss folkloric fantasy and the monster as metaphor. And I'll tell you who was on there. Featuring Ava Kelly, Akis Leonardos, I'm going to mispronounce the names, Elisa Teague, you might recognize that name, Jessica Walsh, and I'm going to mispronounce this guy's name, Khaldun Khalil. You might know him from various Mummy games. So the idea of this was to come in and talk about how to use monsters and what they can represent, right? So we went in there thinking that's what we were going to get. And what we got was basically a panel of people, and the subject that he stuck on was how monsters can represent maligned portions of society, right? Fine, that's actually part and parcel of what we wanted to learn how to do, but that's kind of all they talked about, except for one of the authors, which was Akis Leonardos. I believe he was from the Philippines. And so I'm not gonna lie, Elisa Teague and Khaldun Khalil, again, I'm sorry if I mispronounced the names, kind of looked like they didn't want to be there. So there you go. They just kind of just talked about the same things over and over again for an hour. And so finally, when it came to the question time, one of the questions I had was, hey, what's the best way for you as an author to introduce a monster? How do you want to introduce? Like, do you do it secretively? Do you just full bore, here it is? What is your best way of doing it? And I'm not going to go too deep into the answer or anything, but Akis Leonardos actually answered the question and nobody else did, so which I thought was kind of weird. But he was a very approachable guy, by the way. I have his business card, and I'm going to check out his stuff because he seemed really kind of interested in the panel, and he's the one that actually tried to do more other than talk about people who feel maligned, and therefore you can make monsters out of metaphors of that. So we kind of walked away with that, with just going, okay, we got a segment of it, great, but we didn't get really a whole lot of it. So the other thing that we got, this was actually the last panel thing that we did, and it was an open mic, and this was kind of fun. Speculative, what was it? It was called Speculative Poetry Open Mic. Join Science Fiction and Fantasy Poetry Association Grandmaster Linda D. Addison and Elgin Award-winning poet Brandon O'Brien for a loving, inclusive, and affirming open mic poetry night. You are welcome to offer your own poetry to read or sit back and enjoy the poetry of our Gen Con community, featuring Linda D. Addison and Brandon O'Brien. Yes, the two of them, who were the co-hosts, did their own poems at the end, one each. You had 3 minutes to do a poem, And from what we understood, speculative poetry, if you actually understand what that is, it's not form poetry, it's not structured, it's actually about themes of mythology, folklore, fantasy, science fiction. So what we did not understand, Brent and I, when we went in there, and initially Brent was not going to do anything. I had written 2 poems for this, and I wound up doing just the one because of time constraints. And we didn't understand that pretty much 99% of the people that were in the room, about 20 people or so, had worked on the workshop previously in the weekend with the 2 co-hosts. We didn't. So people kind of like giving us a little bit of a side eye. B, it wasn't really speculative poetry. I would say a good 3/4 of the poems were not science fiction at all, not really folklore, not really mythology, not really fantasy. I'm not going to get down on these people for giving them for going up on a mic and doing their poetry, but that's not what it is. That is not what the bill of goods that we were sold. So the majority of these people gave us they opened their hearts out to us, and they wrote about things like miscarriages and lying about possibly having sex with a math teacher to get a better grade, things like that. So it was kind of odd. So a handful of people did some interesting poetry. I did a science fiction, of course, one, a cyberpunk actually. Another guy did a actual D&D poem about being poisoned by a mushroom spores, and dying, basically. And one guy towards the end did a great poem about gaming dice, to the tune of "We Have Great Balls" by AC/DC. And that was actually quite fun. Now, we enjoyed what we heard. We enjoyed what was being presented to us. We enjoyed the actual poems that were supposed to be said, I guess. And we enjoyed all that. But for the future, we're probably not going to do it again, because clearly this is one of the things where you pay for the workshop, and this is the reward for the workshop that you're supposed to do. So while it is open mic and I was welcome to do that, probably find another open mic that's actually about speculative poetry. Interesting addendum. Brent, who was originally just there to support me in this endeavor, because I haven't done I haven't done spoken word or poetry in probably 20 years on a mic, and so he was there supporting me. Thank you, Brent. And he decided that he was going to go up there, grab the mic, and said, "Hey, it's not my own poem, but can I recite a poem?" They're like, "Sure." Brent has a very good memory. He can learn things very, very quickly and keep them in his head. So he did a Tolkien poem. Yes, J.R. Tolkien, from The Lord of the Rings, and he did the thing, and it was awesome. I wish I had gotten video of it. So yeah, that was very interesting. It was, and he did a great job. Honestly, Brent, if you're watching, golf clap, chef's kiss. Wow. It was really awesome. A lot of fun. So those were the kind of specific things that we did that were kind of odd. So let's talk about doing panels. Okay, so let's start off with that section. Okay, so like any convention, if you want to provide a panel, a workshop, a game, if you want to get a table and run a game, these are things you can do at Gen Con, and it's actually quite fun to do that kind of thing for other people. Now, Brent has been running a game called Whispering Road, which is Ghibli based, and he pretty much sells out each time, and it's a small amount of players, so it's not like he's got 20 people going on at the same time. It's usually anywhere between 4 and 7 people that play the game, and it's a very, very fun game. I sat in on it last year and watched people have a lot of fun with it, and it was just really great. And I wanted to play this year, but and I thought I was going to get to do that, but at the last second, my panel was approved, and it was literally no time for me to play the thing. Like, I could have been there for like maybe a half hour, but before I had to leave to go set up my own panel. And so I was kind of disappointed by that. So maybe next year. It's a really fun game. So if you guys decide to go to Gen Con and you want a fun RPG, easy RPG game to play that's based on Miyazaki Ghibli works, Whispering Road, Brent Newhall. Okay, so that's what he did, and he's pretty a veteran at that. So his games are usually pretty fun, and so he was happy with how it ran this year. So there's that. Pretty easy. It's just a matter of finding out where you're going to be, get your table, sit down, set up, play the game. Fairly straightforward. Next year, I'm thinking of running a table of 7 and calling it Steve's Stupid Games, and make up a whole bunch of stupid games and see if anybody wants to play them. So we'll see. Maybe. We'll see. Anyway, so he had that going on. He also had a Genshin panel, which is about Norse mythology, the connection between Norse mythology, the Nibelungen in particular, in connection with what's going on in Genshin. If you play Genshin Impact, you know there's a ton of lore that is based on real life lore, and it's just a very interesting game to begin with. So a lot of people have a lot of ideas and thoughts and things, and this is Brent's kind of way of looking at it, and just saying, okay, so we're looking at the Nibelung cycle, and here are the characters, here what I think the characters would equate to in Genshin Impact. And it was a really nice back and forth between the people who attended the panel and him, and I enjoyed it. I was there. Me offering support, and people I think had a good idea talking about theories about things that could be, and actually creating, as the talk goes on, creating your own theories about what this might be, what Genshin Impact might be. The unfortunate thing was that he needed a projector. He didn't have it. I had my laptop, which has a large-ish screen, and so I set that up for him. So he kind of did the program off that. But otherwise, the room was kind of perfect for this, and the amount of people that came in, and like I said, the crowd, the people that came in to see that panel, I'm blanking on what the actual title of it is, but if you look up Genshin Impact, it'll tell you what the title is. And people were invested into it. They enjoyed it. And the nice thing was that everyone was an adult, so it wasn't like you had a kid just going, and there's one time at band camp, that kind of stuff. So so that panel went really, really well. I thought it went really well, and so kudos to you, Brent. It was very interesting. We actually talked about it outside of the panel, so it's kind of fun. Again, good job, Brent. And so I did my first panel for Gen Con, and it was an anime panel, and it was called When History and Anime Combine to Entertain the Otaku. So the idea is, if you go to OnCon, you know that I do a lot of historical / anime kind of things and topics and stuff like that. This is kind of like a sort of like hodgepodge of topics, and just kind of briefly going over them. And because it's actually an actual convention and not OnCon, I can actually show clips of videos. So I have the benefit of doing that. So I did that, talked about, basically the Russo-Japanese War in connection to Golden Kamui, talking about Kakenbaruko in connection to Kowloon City, talking about, what else did I talk about? Oh, Japanese feudal clan structure and Summer Wars, which a lot of people seem to like. And, of course, the Sengoku period, the Warring States period, and all those anime that falls under that category. So I had a modest amount of people showing up. We weren't sure what the anime portion of this was going to look like. We didn't know if it was going to be like 2 people or if it was going to be 200. We had really no idea. I had a modest amount, and I was happy with the amount of people. I would have had more had Weston not lock the door and not let me be able to get in there until 10 minutes into my panel time, which means I had to cut a lot out of my panel, about a quarter of my panel out. So a few people got up and left to go somewhere else because the door was locked. But kudos to Gen Con staff over there on Con Ops and the anime part of it for tracking down the guy to get who had the keys to open up the door. They just said, nope, we're on it. We're going to get it. And sure enough, they did. And so Gen Con, kudos to you. Thank you so much. Again, chef's kiss. I was pleased with my panel. It's been the first live panel that I've done in a little while. So I was pleased with that. I know moving forward what I want to do, if I'm going to do more panels with Gen Con in the future. One of the things that this minicon, the anime minicon in Gen Con is that it's run by, I think, a group called Wasabi Entertainment. I'm probably getting that wrong, but Wasabi's part of the title. So this is a group where you hire them to run an anime program for you, and it's very basic. Here's your maid cafe, here's your video room, here's your cosplay, here's your trivia, here's your other trivia. We're going to do the same trivia thing 3 times, and then we're going to do part 2 3 other more times. So it's very basic, kind of, a little bit boring. And we could tell that when they picked up on my panel at the last second, Brent and I feel that it was because they understood that they didn't have a whole lot to bring people in, and they're getting paid to bring people into this part of the convention. So I think what Brent and I would like to do, if we're going to go to Gen Con again next year, there's another convention we're kind of looking at. But if we go back to Gen Con, we're thinking of doing multiple panels in the anime and seeing how many of them they're going to pick up. And if so, we might do a thing with that. So just keep an eye out for that. So yeah, it was fun doing it. It was fun getting back in the saddle for live panels. For me, it was easy. I had a ginormous projector and screen, like big, like the size of larger than the wall behind me, and I had mics and I had a stage, and everything worked and everything plugged in where it needed to go, and it was just fine and dandy. So there we are. So we will probably do more along those lines. I might even do a gaming table next year. We shall see. So yeah, we were successful. I think we were successful in what we were trying to do this year as far as that goes. So thank you, Gen Con, and the various rooms that let us in, hotels that let us do our thing. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm kind of looking at this, and we're running a little long on the video for this week. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to divide this into part 1 and part 2. So this will be part 1, and next week for part 2, I will do gaming reviews for Gen Con. So we're going to finish up here with swag, and I think we're going to do the little music video of Gen Con and what we experienced and saw and all that good stuff. So let's get into the swag. What do I want to start with? Good Lord. So one of the challenges, of course, is that at Gen Con you can get a lot of different things, and for those of us who like to collect badges, here's the badge, kind of nice 4-day badge. Yes, it is 4 days. And like literally when you show up, there are things to do. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff to do. By the way, these get picked up. They're free, but they get picked up very, 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 very quickly. So if you don't get one, see if you can find an odd corner where these are stacked up and just grab one. They are fun to have. They actually have articles in there as well as all the just regular information. So what do I want to start with? Okay, so we're going to start off with one of the things in the dealer's room that I found, and this is, I think, an addendum to an actual game. I think you can use this on its own, but it's actually part of a larger RPG world of Robert E. Howard's Conan, The Age of Conan. There's a vendor that sells games very cheaply. They're basically games that that are kind of long in the tooth, and people kind of don't know them very well or whatever, and so they sell for really cheap. This book was like $8, but it's very pretty. It's very interesting. I'm actually personally right now on a Robert E. Howard kick. He's the creator of Conan the Barbarian. So yeah, so I got that, which was kind of interesting. So another, at that same location, no, not at the same location, a different place. There is a BBC licensed a board game called Don't Blink, and it's based on Doctor Who. And if you know your Doctor Who, you know what this is all about, right? Right? So you're on a ship, and you have to you're in a place, and the TARDIS is broken. You have to go around the board and collect the pieces, and the angels are there. So if you know what the angels is, so the deal with the angels is, as long as you don't blink or look away from them, they can't get you. But the moment you do that, that's when they move. They move when you're not looking at them. It's a really scary concept. So so I got this game that is kind of fun. What else did I get? Oh yeah, so another in that same booth. Just because I'm a child of the 80s, Pac-Man, the card game, a whole new level. So we will break this open at some point and play the game. It's probably going to be like Oregon Trail, where it's just like, okay, it's a card game version of the video game. So I thought that was kind of fun. What else did I get? Oh, so some of these places are really interesting, and they sell really interesting products, and they mean to be like cheesy sometimes. There's one particular place is really cheesy, and they sell these board games. I mean, they just mass produce this stuff, and it's just funny, and it's schlock, and it's like, think Larry the Lounge Lizard meets B movies. I mean, that's this kind of just this guy who runs the booth, Reggie, I think his name is. He literally has the glasses, the smoking jacket, the whole 9 yards. The guy's got a great character thing going on. So anyway, you can buy pulp fiction books. And when Brent and I discovered this, it's like really hard for us not just to buy one of everything. So, here's what I got. The Best of Jack Williamson, Redondo Boulevard. Introduction by Frederick Pohl. If you know who Frederick Pohl is, he's a big sci-fi guy. So this is a listing of short stories. The art is also very, very interesting, very stylized. That gas station in the back there, that orange ball, I don't know if you can see it, that's 76. Not sure that it actually even exists anymore. So there you go. Then I got, this is kind of funny because it was, again, I'm on a Robert E. Howard Conan kick, and I thought this was a Conan novel, but it isn't. And it's like, never before published, fantasy adventure by the creator of Conan, Robert E. Howard, Three-Bladed Doom. So let's take a read of the back. The triple-bladed dagger, whose three double-edged blades sprang from but one hilt, had come to mean instant death to any man who got in its way. The search for this scourge leads El Borak, not Conan, El Borak, in Gulistan, the land of ghouls, an evil region of black crags and wild gorges, shunned by wise men. It seemed uninhabited, yet men dwelled there, men or demons. Glimpses of shadowy figures moving through the night lead El Borak on a wild, strange search that always ends in the same place, a black cliff through which only a demon could pass. The noise of the djinn, which echoes among the crags, is a sound to turn a man's heart to ice as it mocks El Borak and his mission as he follows the trail of Three-Bladed Doom. There you go. So, wow, schlock. But wonderful looking schlock. And then I got this one because this is the definition of pulp fiction. This novel is by Frederick Brown, author of the fabulous Clip Joint and Death Has Many Doors. I've actually read Death Has Many Doors. It's pulp fiction, and I'll just leave it at that. The title is The Wench is Dead. Hoods, winos, junkies, B-girls. Here's a hard and violent novel, Murder on Skid Row. I'm called Howie, or the Professor. I'm on Skid Row in LA because I want to know what it's like to be a bum from the inside. But I didn't know I'd fall for a part-time hustler named Billy the Kid. I didn't know I'd get mixed up in 2 killings and that the cops would pin them on me. The wench is dead. Dun dun dun. All right, so the last bit of swag, and I'm kind of proud of myself for not like blowing my entire like bank account on this stuff. Again, the place where I got all this stuff, they have one of these plastic records. So you can make these things that are not very good, but in terms of quality and stuff. But here you go. To play one of these things is kind of difficult on a turntable. You have to weight it down. You have to figure out what the correct speed is, and once you play it though, then it's kind of cool. So the song is called "Loot the Body," and it's wonderful. It's wonderful psychobilly, borderline psychobilly music. So it's kind of like a rockabilly, 50s rockabillies with a horror bent to it. I mean, loot the body. It's about looting a body. What more can you want? So yes, this was quite fun. So that was my swag. That's what I got. Again, the nice cup as well, and yes, it was just. Oh, and I got a sticker, a 20 die sticker that I put on the front of my laptop. So that's there. Did I get anything else? Oh, I got 3 shirts for the pretty lady who gives me food, and yeah, that's about it. But yeah, it's easy to spend a lot of money at places like this. All right, so that's going to be, almost it for this week. I believe I will have the video of Gen Con, the little music video that people make to show their travels through a convention. So Gen Con 2024 music video will be up after this, so please stick around and watch that. Next week, I'm going to have the reviews of all the games most of the games that we played, and the good, the bad, the ugly, and the quite fun. So yeah, if you got any questions for me about Gen Con, please put them down below. I'll try to answer them. Again, I had a great, wonderful time, and yeah. So I'll see you guys next time to do the gaming review, board game, card game reviews. And as always, love you guys, and watch more anime.